this introduction, Jeff Ritter, CEO of the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission, will present an example of how jurisdictional apprenticeship authorities are addressing the issue of employer engagement based on his experience leading the implementation of SATCC's strategic agenda by championing apprenticeship training and certification in Saskatchewan. During this webinar, attendees will not use their telephones in an effort to minimize noise during the presentation. If you would like to ask a question of our presenter, please type it in the box on the webinar console. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to participants following today's broadcast. First, I would like to provide some context from CAF's extensive research with employers. So first of all, employers who train apprentices say it's an important part of their business strategy, helping them grow their workforce and enhance business performance. The training culture created by an effective apprenticeship program promotes skills development, safety, and productivity. Yet, despite the benefits and available supports, only 19% of skilled trades employers hire and train apprentices. Out of the 19% of employers training apprentices, the construction center has the highest participation at 34%, followed by transportation, manufacturing, and mining, and services. Of employers with journey persons, 62% have apprentices. Finally, 77% of apprentices are trained by employers with fewer than 100 employees. CAF's extensive employer research and engagement with employers across the country through events, activities, forums, and workshops has given us a range of perspectives on employer engagement in apprenticeship training. This continuum demonstrates the range of perspectives from employers that are engaged, open to the message, or not engaged in apprenticeship training. So as you can see, employers who are engaged see apprentices as learners and integral to business performance strategies. Training is really the focus in this group. Employers who are open to the message may have hired apprentices in the past and may hire again. They're also willing to hire an apprentice but need more information and practical advice. Employers who are not engaged see apprenticeship as a cost, and they do not have a culture of learning at the workplace. We encourage you to refer to CAF's website for reports specifically pertaining to employer participation in apprenticeship, addressing a range of topics that affect employers, including financial supports, the impact of technology, and effective journey person apprentice mentoring. Relating to why employers train based on CAF research, employers really identify a business need, such as an HR strategy for recruiting the next generation workforce. Homegrown journey persons are also more productive and a better fit. Journey persons also benefit because they help with complex tasks and keep staff more engaged. Employers also see that they have an improved health and safety record with training apprentices. And another reason for training is, well, certified workers are unavailable in the labor market, especially in compulsory trades. So now, why employers don't train? Some things to consider. Non-participating employers identify reasons they don't train, including, well, there's not enough continuous work. So in CAF surveys and interviews, the most common reason employers report for not hiring is related to demand. Employers said their business did not have enough continuous contracts to support hiring an apprentice, and the company was too small. Poaching has an interesting perspective. For example, employers in Atlantic Canada feel they lose a lot of their apprentices to Western companies that pay higher wages. Survey results indicate employer opinion is divided. In a 2009 survey, half of employers said it was a very serious issue. In 2014, only 12% of employers identified poaching as a concern. This challenges the assumption and makes for an interesting debate about this barrier for employers. Other reasons employers don't train. They cannot offer the full scope of the trade for the apprentice. There are skills gaps of apprentices, and it costs too much and it takes too much time. Lack of employer awareness is something that CAF has found across our research over the past 14 years. Employers really lack awareness about the supports available. For example, 15% of employers were aware of financial supports in our research, but only 25% were aware of other apprenticeship-related resources. In terms of our community response and insights, the apprenticeship community across Canada emphasizes the importance of engaging non-participating employers. Their ideas include supports that recognize unique challenges of small businesses, approaches to sharing apprentices and training responsibilities with administrative support, considering apprenticeship as part of government procurement, and public sector efforts to train the way. CAF has 5 key reasons to hire and train an apprentice that I would like to share with you today for your consideration. Number 1, there's a solid business case regardless of the size of the business or location. Again, I really encourage participants to refer to CAF research and our reports on our website, which have extensive information on this. Number 2, training to the unique needs of a business. Number 3, demographics and knowledge transfer. Number 4, homegrown journey persons are more productive, make fewer mistakes, and again, have better health and safety records. And finally, it's a cost-effective investment with a net return by the second year. Supports for employers at every stage exist, and employers over the years have given us feedback as to what would really encourage employers to hire. Key stage is awareness. Employers suggest promoting opportunities to youth that will generate an interest in skilled trades careers and offer employers a greater pool of candidates from which to recruit. Better preparing candidates through essential skills training helps employers improve the quality of candidates. In terms of HR and recruitment, employers suggest administrative support is needed by outsourcing paperwork to third-party organizations because this would help employers with limited HR resources. In terms of training, employers suggest more flexibility around technical training because it would encourage employers to participate, particularly if they know they will not lose their apprentices during busy times at work. Employers also suggested providing ready-to-use mentoring programs and incentives for journey persons who teach as ways to improve and reward mentoring. And ahead of this webinar, some of you sent some feedback on current activities that you are implementing to engage employers in apprenticeship training. So I would like to share some of our key feedback, which of course we absolutely welcome on an ongoing basis beyond this webinar. As you know, we are continuing a dialogue about employer engagement. But to give you some food for thought, here's some ideas. Why train? By hiring apprentices, we can train their customer relationship skills and enlighten them to work with safety and integrity while on and off the job. Ideas for employer supports include compensation for time teaching, in-house training, and relations with other personnel. Getting more employers involved. Encourage employers to visit training centers and encourage them to speak to students as a group. Now, other ideas for supports, for employer supports from the community, from constituencies, be it jurisdictions, education, labor. Some of the key concepts included involving employers in skills training through the training center and local apprenticeship committees in the union. At the school board level, it's mostly co-op teachers making the connection with employers. And finally, apprenticeship advisors have many ways of encouraging employers to participate in apprenticeship training. Now, building on the valuable insights shared by today's webinar and participants across Canada, I'm pleased to introduce Jeff Ritter, the CEO of Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission, who will share best practices for employer engagement based on his experience of leading implementation of SATCC's strategic agenda. In his role, Jeff supports the Board of Directors' industry leadership role, achieving program and service excellence, and executing dual accountability to the industry and government of Saskatchewan.
We recognize that we can't force behavioral change. We can only influence it. We have those compulsory trades. We've talked about regulation maybe not being the complete answer. We want to basically talk a little bit about by providing employers with the information that they need to make the decision themselves. We hope that we can influence their decision or their thinking and through that also influence their behavior. So, everything starts off with research. We began by doing our research. For the campaign as a whole, we didn't really have a very large budget, but I'm going to suggest that you don't need a large budget to start making some change. The research budget then too, of course, was very small, but we drew on many of our partners, such as the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum and the work that they're doing. We looked to a couple of studies. We looked at the study entitled "It Pays to Hire an Apprentice," conducted by CAF. We also looked at Employers and Apprenticeship in Canada, which was conducted in June of 2011, also by CAF. And then we also did some research on our own. We drew upon our SATCC Apprentice and Employer Satisfaction Survey report, which was conducted in 2013 by the SATCC. And then, of course, we met with our partners in the skilled trades, including all of the Saskatchewan organized skilled trades associations that had ties to apprenticeship. And we examined the organized skilled trades association membership lists. We actually cross-referenced them against the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship database of current employers. This provided us with a good sample group to be representative of the Saskatchewan employers of skilled trades, and this is something that we're able to use as part of an ongoing comparison to measure the campaign. Finally, we're conducting a number of informational discussions with employers in a variety of sectors to try and provide additional insight into the perceptions and problems which can be addressed in the subsequent tactics of the campaign. So this combination of research methods was something that we felt was very important. It provides us with provincially relevant analysis, and it also results in steering the direction of the employer engagement campaign, and addresses the involvement and the perceived barriers or the concerns that may exist by employers towards participating in apprenticeship. So through the work we've done so far, we've created a key stakeholder assessment. The main goal of our audience, which is employers, is really the bottom line. Right? They are short on time and additional resources. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that what we need to provide them is a self-motivated, justifiable goal for them to participate in the apprenticeship system. So not only that, but we also need to capture their attention. And we have to have messaging that is clear and concise and is also easily understood. And it has to be consistent. And not to leave this out, but it also has to be applicable to all sectors and all levels of employers and address their objections. So it's quite a bit of a tall order in terms of crafting that. But you know, I guess I'll sort of throw it out there for maybe some feedback, saying if you have any other ideas or opinions on this assessment, please enter those into the comment box, because I'd certainly welcome your feedback. So there's three main goals of this campaign. The first is to inform employers of the benefits of hiring an apprentice over poaching skilled tradespeople. We want to encourage employers to find out more information and also to engage in the program. And we want to convince employers that hiring an apprentice is actually an investment that's going to help them to grow a sustainable, high-performing workplace over the long term. So the overarching theme that we're trying to drive home is that training, or hiring, in fact, an apprentice makes good business sense. I should point out that here is actually one modification that we've made since the beginning stages of this campaign. So we've actually changed some of the wording. Initially, we were focused on the key benefits of hiring an apprentice, but since that time, the labor market in Saskatchewan has actually leveled out a little bit from what we call rapid or almost eye-watering growth to a more steady growth scenario. So employers aren't necessarily hiring as frequently as they once were. So because of that, the language that we're now using is the language of training an apprentice, which also encourages employers to indenture their current trades workforce. So what are your thoughts about this sort of good business sense message? Is this what employers care about from your perspective, that that this is a good business decision for them? So let me know what you think about that in the comment box. Moving on to some of the key benefits. When we try to focus on the key benefits of apprenticeship, our key messages that we're consistently using to tell our story speaks to what exactly does good business sense mean to either business owners or recruiting specialists. To the majority of our target audience, the barriers to training an apprentice are primarily related to time or money. They'll sometimes believe they either don't have the time or the money or the resources to train an employee or to have them absent while attending school, and also to cover the training costs. And by focusing on each of the key benefits in our messaging, we can address those barriers to engaging in the program and also convince employers that hiring an apprentice does in fact make good business sense. So engaging them through the creative presentation of a compelling benefit statement is something that appeals to their sensibilities, their ability to feel and to emotionally react to the message. So I'd like to go through the key benefits, and of course many of these are going to be familiar to people on this webinar because they're actually based on some of the findings from the CAF studies. So first of all, training an apprentice means a better return on your investment. We discussed the return on investment figure of $1 invested yields an average return of $1.47, and then we expand on how this number was determined and what it really means. And this can also be looked at in terms of apprenticeship actually providing an employer with a competitive advantage. And that's one of the messages that we hope and expect resonates with some of these key stakeholders. We talk about hiring a local apprentice is actually less expensive than hiring from abroad if a particular employer is growing their labor force. And we often find that many employers are actually surprised by the figures of how much it can cost to hire a temporary foreign worker. Now, I want to emphasize that we're very careful to state that we're not against hiring from abroad, and in fact, we believe there is a place for it. But we emphasize that it's not the only answer, and it's certainly not a viable long-term solution. So we discuss the low costs of hiring a local apprentice. And we also want to encourage these employers to look at hiring graduates of the Saskatchewan Youth Apprenticeship Program. We have a very strong youth apprenticeship program in our province, with the one downfall being that the next step after high school, that step where you actually go out and find an employer who's willing to hire a first-year apprentice, can sometimes be a daunting one. So the more employers that understand the youth apprenticeship program, the more we hope that it will follow them to make hiring decisions, and good hiring decisions. So training an apprentice also means higher productivity and fewer mistakes. The statistics show that employers estimate that a homegrown journey person, so that's a journey person that was trained within their company, is actually 29% more productive than a journey person trained elsewhere. So we also like to discuss the loyalty to the company, the retention, and the benefits that they accrue in terms of achieving a sustainable workforce cycle. We also like to bring in some statistics from the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship, Apprentice and Employer Satisfaction Survey, and that helps to put some solid numbers behind what we're saying in this regard. And we also talk a little bit about available tax credits and government grants, and the fact that that makes hiring an apprentice more affordable. And this is an interesting thought, and I want to spend a little bit more time on it, because we include this messaging because we think it's important for employers to know what's available for their apprentices in our province. And there are the federal grants and the tax breaks, and there's also the apprentice loans. And here in Saskatchewan, we have some additional supports for apprentices. However, we actually don't have any additional grants or tax credits in our province for employers. And I'm not actually convinced that if we did, it would yield a better result. So when you look at the barriers of the employer to become involved in apprenticeship training, most of them we actually see are centered around the time that is required to train an apprentice, which includes that journey person's time. as well as the time the apprentice is away at technical training. So we have an ongoing message around certification. There are many experienced tradespeople working throughout Saskatchewan who are actually qualified to write the journeyperson exam, and we always make sure to promote this option. And we have a secondary message for employers who may not directly hire skilled tradespeople, but also use their services. So if you're hiring a subcontractor, for example, if you're a construction company renovating a building, it's important to know who you're hiring and ask if the skilled tradespeople are in fact certified. So we're promoting this message to consumers, but it's also applicable really to all employers. For those who support apprenticeship, we think you can use this message to promote the value of having journey people working for you. And we can use our networks to help further promote the message of the importance of apprenticeship in the skilled trades. So this last message is going to lead us to our tactics. So the other barrier that we've commonly found is that employers think there's going to be too much paperwork or red tape involved for them to train an apprentice, and that can scare them away. So we want to focus on the ease of registering and mentoring an apprentice. So I'll maybe pause for just a second and throw out a question for you to get involved, and that is, if you have any additional key messages that you commonly use within your jurisdiction, please feel free to share them. So the first tactic of our strategy is actually pretty simple and straightforward. So we're going to slightly revise our website so that it's easier for employers to find exactly what they're looking for in short order. It's a simple but very effective solution. The tabs are simple. The links are there with everything they need easily at their fingertips. In addition, we're also expanding the use of social media, primarily LinkedIn, to engage employers in the conversation and to build a strong presence. We've also seen success in using targeted LinkedIn ads, in addition to Google banner ads, targeting career and other industry-related websites. We actually find that to be a fairly low-cost method of advertising that can have a surprisingly far reach. And also face-to-face. Right? Engaging employers is a lot about actually getting out in front of them. Direct communication is absolutely key to what we do. And it's more than just a part of this campaign. It's a key part of our business here at the Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission. We're coordinating our key messaging throughout our own organization. For example, we're arranging for presentations in front of the audiences of employers and human resource professionals, trying to get out there to provide them with this message. We reach related industries through trade show events and our field consultants. Those are our boots on the ground. They're already out there visiting employers with a variety of goals. We're trying to make sure that they have consistent, comprehensive tools and messaging. And we also promote the fact that field consultants are available to help an employer set up an apprenticeship program within their workplace. So we give them a little bit of sort of hand-holding to make sure that they're able to move forward with an apprenticeship program once they understand the benefits of that. So I mentioned earlier that we had a small budget, and because of that, we have to be very, very focused on our targets. We're focused on industry-related publications for both editorial as well as advertising. Our industry partners are very, very supportive of our message. Everybody who is involved with an apprenticeship understands that it's all about partnerships, right? It's not just a partnership between an employer and an employee. It's also a partnership between industry sectors, the government, as well as training providers. And we've been actually quite successful in getting some of our partners to provide us with space in the pages of their publications and newsletters for us to promote our message, because there's a lot of goal congruence in this space. And when we do print advertising, we also try to make sure that it is very targeted within publications that will reach employers within the various sectors of the designated trades. All of the branding and the design that we have for this campaign is very consistent and it's very simple, but yet we hope it's displayed in a very creative way. We also use direct mail and email blasts that are catchy and that capture the attention of the employers. Maybe share with me what some of the other ways that you find effective in terms of reaching employers, particularly the ones that are less engaged than they should be. So it wouldn't be a presentation if we didn't talk about some of the challenges. And whenever you're trying to influence behavior, it's always a continuous moving cycle of engagement. It's important to understand that this is a journey that you're really never going to be finished. There's always going to be more work to do. And that said, I want to talk about some of the challenges that we still have in terms of engaging employers, and maybe also get some of your thoughts on how to get around those challenges. The first challenge we have is we can't actually get to all employers, at least not just yet. Within our jurisdiction, there is no one comprehensive list of every employer in the skilled trades in Saskatchewan. So therefore, by focusing on the employers that are easier for us to reach, such as those who are belonging to industry associations, we can get the message out and then continue to grow from there. But if they're not engaged in their industry association, they might also not be engaged in apprenticeships. So, we're trying to get to almost like a new audience. Secondly, it's important to recognize that there are just some barriers that are simply going to be outside of our control. If one particular employer continues to train apprentices and those apprentices subsequently leave upon achieving certification, oftentimes there's more to the situation. Perhaps the employer doesn't pay a high enough journeyperson wage, or they might have been just simply unlucky to have maybe one too many journeyperson leave, and that can lead to a sour opinion on apprenticeship, which colors their future decisions. There's also some regional considerations that come into play. Here in Saskatchewan, 30% of the population actually lives in rural locations. Many of the small towns oftentimes have a hard time finding skilled tradespeople to work for them, and sometimes they actually don't want to send them to technical training in the cities because they feel the apprentice might actually stay there. So they're concerned about that. Also, there's some subcultures within each trade. There's some trades that simply don't apprentice their workers, and this can extend beyond changing an employer's behavior, but really delves into the entire trade's behavior. So if there are more challenges that you see or that you're finding, please enter those into the comments, and we can try and talk about them further. Or if you have some ideas on how to address some of the challenges that I just talked about, I'm certainly more than happy to hear what's working within your jurisdiction. So I'd like to thank you very much for listening and participating. I want to apologize for the audio quality. I hope we've gotten that straightened out. And I'd first like to address a few of the comments and questions that maybe have already come through. And then please feel free to send on any additional questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. So I see one of the first questions is what's Saskatchewan's registration versus completion rate? This is a great question. So first of all, I have to have a little bit of a discussion on methodology because completion rates is one of those sort of loaded terms and can vary greatly depending on the methodology that is chosen. So here in Saskatchewan, we actually follow the same methodology for calculating a completion rate as the province of Alberta. We call it the real completion rate, and basically what it is a cohort study. So we actually track individual apprentices from the completion of their first year of their technical training through to the expected end of their certification journey, plus 2 years. So if it's a 4-year trade, we track them for 6 years. In 2013-14, our completion rate across all trades was 61%. Now, of course, that will be higher in the compulsory trades, and again, it's important to recognize that this varies greatly from trade to trade. Some trades will have higher completion rates and others will have low. Like, for instance, I heard Sarah Watts-Renard at a conference once talk about I think it was a 17% completion rate for drywallers and a 76% completion rate for electricians or something like that. So it's not an easy thing to make a comparison on, but that was, that's something to keep in mind. So across all trades in 2013-14, our completion rate using what we believe is the best methodology was 61%. So I hope that answered your question. Now, in terms of, let's see, I have another one. Comparing total number of registered to, oh, okay, sorry, this was some notes on this. So, okay, next question. Is the advertising that the SATCC does targeted to employers or youth? Okay, well, thank you very much. That's a very good question. So the campaign is focused on engaging employers in apprentices. However, we didn't discuss it today, but much of our, I'll almost describe it as our core marketing program, is targeted to youth. Right? We want to see some underrepresented groups more involved within apprenticeship. So we target a lot of our communications, our core communications towards young people to try and get them to consider a career in the skilled trades. We also focus a lot of messaging around trying to get young women especially to become engaged in some of the non-traditional trades. And of course within this province we would very much like to get more First Nations and Métis people to become engaged as well as disabled people within the skilled trades. So a lot of the visual identity things that you'll see even within our web page, or if you have seen any of my presentations before, we try to include wherever possible a lot of diversity within the images that we use, and that's all part of our efforts to try and encourage more of these groups to participate. So I hope that answered your question. I'll just see if maybe there's another question. Let's see here. Is there any concern that new employers won't be good trainers or will have less success in terms of completion? Well, that is an excellent question. Well, first of all, there should be journey people there so that you have the knowledge, right? And the whole success of this training system is you have that journey person act as a mentor to the apprentice. So we have some tools available for employers in this regard on our website. If anybody's interested in checking it out, we have a document or a page entitled "Journey Person as a Mentor," and that's an actual guide that exists on our website. So it's a tool that we put out there. I think all of us have seen the journey person who's outstanding on the tools, but you wouldn't want to put it with the apprentice. And it's important to recognize that not every journey person is going to be a good mentor for an apprentice. So I think a lot of the employers understand the skill sets of their employees, and hopefully are taking the effort to make sure that when they're trying to put an apprenticeship program in place, that they look to the mentoring capabilities of their existing journey people. Right? It's also important, I think, in terms of marketability for skilled tradespeople. If you're a journey person with a mentoring skill set, that actually makes you more employable because it increases your flexibility within that employer's workforce. So something to think about in terms of sort of skill development or identification as part of maybe a resume building exercise. So I hope that answered your question. These are great. They just keep rolling on. So we have another great question. What, if any, is your experience in marketing internationally trained tradespeople or immigrants to trades employers? So it's not really our sort of core business. We do undertake, as part of our sort of day-to-day work, assessments for employers on foreign trained workers, but we're not actively out there sort of promoting foreign trained workers to our stakeholders. Certainly we try to make sure that everybody's aware of that service, and in the case of the compulsory trades, that's a service that they actually have to take advantage of. So I'll check, see if there's another question. Let's see. We have a question here saying, since some trades legally require you to have a certificate of qualification to train apprentices, how do we approach companies who have no trainers or journey people on staff? And it goes on to say, in Alberta we have an initiative where we encourage employers to hire and train and retain apprentices. Okay, so that's, sorry, just making sure I get the right questions. They're all coming in via email. So again, the question is, since some trades legally require you to have a certificate of qualification to train apprentices, how do you approach companies who have no trainers or journey people on staff? Well, I mentioned earlier, here in Saskatchewan we have 4 compulsory trades. Those are construction electrician, refrigeration mechanic, sheet metal worker, and plumber. So in those trades you have to either be an apprentice or a journey person to work in those trades. In the remainder of the trades, those are non-compulsory trades, we actually have the ability to work with employers to develop a training plan for them to use maybe one of their more experienced employees or tradespeople to act as as sort of a mentor. Keep in mind, we have there's 2 paths available for apprenticeship within those trades within the province, or 2 paths available for certification. The first path is the very conventional. You go through an apprenticeship program. If the trade is 4 years long, for example, you attend technical training in each of the 4 years, and then upon completion you challenge the certification exam. But if you're working in a non-compulsory trade, we typically would regard you to have the ability to pick up the knowledge of the trade over time on your own without the without the benefit of that supportive mentor-mentee relationship. So if it's a 4-year trade, we would say, in time and a half, so say 6 years, you'd be eligible to challenge the certification exam. And that's an option. We certainly encourage employers to look at certifying their existing workforce, right? I mean, if you lack journey people, you can create them through that process, but we try to make it so that that doesn't represent a barrier for them to participate in the apprenticeship system. So again, very good question. I hope I answered that, and we'll see if we've got any more questions right now. Okay, so it says, are employers more reticent about women apprentices than men apprentices? I can't speak to how employers feel about that, but I can certainly give you my own perspective. I mean, there's no legitimate gender barriers for participation within the skilled trades. The notion that the skilled trades require big burly men, I think is an antiquated notion. This is about solving problems. Yes, you use your hands, but oftentimes the skilled trades are more about using your mind and your hands, and that is certainly something that women excel in, just as men. So it's pardon me. So there's no legitimate gender barriers. Certainly in terms of all of the skill sets required to be successful, gender and race don't play into it. So if employers sort of maybe lose some of the stereotypes that they've held on to. They may actually find themselves able to take advantage of a sort of a non-traditional pool of employees who will be very successful within their jobs. Great question. Hope I answered that satisfactorily, and I'll just take a quick look and see if we have any more. Oh, okay, so we got a couple of questions about wage subsidies. I should have given you a bit of a disclaimer. One of the things I feel very comfortable answering is questions about my own jurisdiction. I'm less comfortable answering about other jurisdictions, so I'm going to kind of skate away from those. I think I've talked about my view, because we've certainly within this province seen some very dramatic increases in terms of the number of apprentices, and that's happened, despite the fact that we don't offer any wage subsidies to employers. So I think what I'll do is I'll let CAF take over now, and they'll answer sort of the national questions.
Hello.
So again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for your wonderful presentation and taking questions from our participants. It's Christina here again. I will answer a few questions which are directed specifically at CAF. The first one was, in CAF's research, is there an indication that work to engage non-participating employers is having an impact? Yes. Our research shows that employers who are exposed to this business case message are more open to hiring an apprentice, and national survey results indicate that employer attitudes towards apprenticeship and the business case have become more positive between 2006 and 2011. So I hope that answers that question. A separate question that also came to CAF was a comment to begin. I find that most employers are interested in financial assistance. Does your government give specific tax benefits for employers who have a training program in place and continuously train and take on apprentices? Now, to answer that question, BC, Ontario, New Brunswick, Manitoba offer tax credits to employers in addition to the federal government, and also Newfoundland and Labrador, Yukon, Nunavut, and New Brunswick also offer wage subsidies. So those are two questions that we were happy to take on. And because there's such a great participation, we really welcome your feedback following the webinar. We will follow up with the recording, so you have the presentation which Jeff provided and then the insights from CAF. And of course, we will answer any questions that were not addressed during the event today. But in closing, I really want to thank you all for attending today. We're very interested in your feedback about what your organizations are doing to support employer engagement in hiring and training apprentices across the country. I want to remind you again that your feedback will be shared at our Atlantic Roundtable in St. John's, Newfoundland this week, with over 70 stakeholders attending, and your insights will contribute to this national discussion about the challenges and benefits of training in today's workplace, and this will help inform the next phase of CAF's employer engagement strategy.